So I wanted, before we get started, to let everyone know that I have a new podcast out, and it's called Meditations. If you like the Meditations segment of this current podcast, you'll like the Meditations podcast. It's nothing but 20 minutes of meditative sounds. And now, on with the podcast.
Americans love scenery. We want to see it all, from one coast to the next, Mount Rushmore down to the Everglades. So hop into a Chevy Malibu and take the scenic route. It's the car you knew America could build. There's a place where people count on friendships they can trace back generations, where they can count on the same stool at the coffee shop waiting for them every morning. This place is called Glen Ellen, and you can find it in every bottle of Glen Ellen wine. This is craft brewed Herman Joseph's, the smoothest, easiest drinking specialty beer in the entire solar system. And I believe you'll find drinkable in the dictionary right after don't order a beer you can't drink. Zoingo! Boingo! The freestyle pogo with more boing, more bounce. Bounce further, bounce higher with Zoingo Boingo. To see what makes Arrowhead Mountain Spring water different from those other waters, you have to go back to the source. And with Arrowhead, that means going back a little farther and longer than most. Between security challenged and security strengthened, there's one important word: how. And it is the how that makes all the difference to our nation and our world. Lockheed Martin. We never forget who we're working for. What makes Kraft Singles so good? 2 out of every 3 kids don't get the recommended amount of calcium. But with Kraft Singles, they get a good source of calcium and the taste they love. Kraft Singles. Magic every single time. Throw boring overboard with a new real meal from Long John Silver's. A meal worthy of a plate. Just $4.99. Only at Long John Silver's. We may not all be geniuses, but we can all do something smart. Introducing the Hyundai 199 Sonata Lease. It's a smart deal on a really smart car.
I say the word totally too much, I gotta quit saying totally. I want to replace it with a word that means the same thing, but is different. Mitchell, do you like submarine sandwiches? All encompassingly.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, Trump Tuesday, June the 10th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have the headlines, patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, and Donald Trump. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. And now the headlines for Tuesday, June the 10th. Structure fire, San Juan Capistrano at 4:03 a.m. Orange County fire crews responded to a reported fire on Brookside Lane. First arriving units were on scene within minutes and found a fully involved garage fire in a 2-story multifamily townhome. As Germany slides deeper into recession, Chancellor Friedrich Merz blames citizens for embracing too much, quote, work-life balance, unquote. But critics argue the real drag is a bloated welfare state, sky-high taxes, and the burden of supporting millions of illegal immigrants. Austrian police said 10 people were dead, including the perpetrator, after a shooting at a school in the city of Graz, confirming earlier media reports. Parliament debated halal slaughter. The Muslims played the Islamophobia card. The Tories demanded halal, but refusing to do anything about it over sensibilities. Witnesses and experts take the stand at Karen Reid's retrial for murder. Breaking. Hundreds of heavily armed LA Sheriff's deputies are now arriving to the area near the ICE building, and they've brought some firepower. Trump deploying troops is forcing the county to act. They don't want to look weak. Ravit Asayag, 19 years old, used to sing and play for children in hospitals and at Memorial Day ceremonies. In the battle in Moshav Yachini, she first stormed the building where the terrorists were entrenched and was killed. May her memory be blessed. Nearly 3 weeks ago, every House Democrat voted to raise taxes on all Americans. Anti-Trump, pro-Los Angeles insurrection advocates blocked traffic outside the DOJ and FBI in Washington, D.C. today. And those are the headlines for Tuesday, June the 10th. Thank you. And now the political corner, the 10th Amendment Center, an article called The Brutal Truth, and its subtitle is You Don't Live in a Land of the Free. Quote, all might be free if they valued freedom and defended it as they ought. Unquote. Samuel Adams penned these words with the kind of clarity that makes modern political discourse look like finger painting. Here's the rub. Do we actually value freedom enough to defend it, or have we become so comfortable with our chains that we've forgotten what it means to be truly free? Let me be blunt. Freedom isn't about having benevolent masters. It's not about government officials who promise to be nice, or even those who actually do. It's about power itself, who has it, who controls it, and most importantly, whether it can be stopped the instant it exceeds its limits. And that was the article, The Brutal Truth, from the 10th Amendment Center in the Political Corner. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Patriotic Short.
It was the early morning hours of June 6, 1944, and the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division prepared to hit Juno Beach. Among that first wave was Lieutenant James Montgomery Doohan, who took out 2 German snipers while leading his men to higher ground through a field of anti-tank mines. Later that night, while on patrol, Doohan was caught in a machine gun crossfire and hit multiple times. 1 bullet struck his chest, only to be miraculously deflected by a silver cigarette case. Doohan survived the war, but his right middle finger was amputated, and he would walk with a permanent limp. The world would come to know the young lieutenant as Scotty, the ingenious chief engineer on the USS Enterprise in the original Star Trek series. James Doohan passed away in 2005 at the age of 85. A portion of his ashes embarked on one final mission aboard the International Space Station's Columbus module, a silent, eternal voyage among the stars he had so vividly brought to life for
And that was the Patriotic Short. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, let's get motivated.
The price you will pay, the suffering you will go through to make your dream come true is incredibly small than the price you will pay if you never do. You'll pay that one the rest of your life. Ask yourself what you're willing to risk. What's the price you're willing to pay? Because what most people do when they're trying to chase their dream or their big outcome, the whole time they're negotiating the price in their head. Should I continue to do it? Is it worth it? I don't know if I can continue anymore. It's getting higher, and that price is failure. That price is setback. That price is looking back. That price can be financial, literally a physical price. Is it getting too high? Is it too much? And you'll have people in your ear, it's too big a sacrifice. You're going through too much. And you begin to negotiate it in your mind. It distracts all your focus. You can't be executing and negotiating simultaneously. If you're in your head negotiating and negotiating and negotiating, you can't execute. So negotiate it now. Negotiate it with me now. What are you willing to pay? For me, when I'm after something big, I'm going to get it. And I know that negotiation comes up front. I accept the suffering. I accept the sacrifice. I know the sacrifice is far smaller than the one I'll pay if I don't do it. And I eliminate distractions, and I go freaking get what I want in my life, just like you can. And this needs to be your recipe as well.
Do you expect, based upon your performance, based upon what you produce at this point in time in your life, do you expect to be successful? Do you want to be successful? Do you want to live a life of productivity? Are there dreams you want? Everybody will say yes. But see, want shows up in conversation. Expectation shows up in behavior. See, I can tell what you expect by what you do. Judge a tree by the fruit it bears, not the fruit that it wants, not the fruit that it talks about, not the fruit that it claims, but by what you are doing. See, what you do when you leave here, when the music stops, when the shouting dies down, your behavior, how you conduct yourself, writing your goals down, deciding to enroll in school to get a GED, deciding to sit into class with children young enough to be your grandchildren, decide to find some product, some idea, some service that you can provide so that you can begin to create some value for yourself so you can create wealth.
If dreams were easy, everybody would make them happen. The problem is that most people, they can't get up in the morning. They ain't got no energy. They don't got the energy to keep up with me. I'm like, boo, ain't nothing wrong with you. You just ain't got the stamina. You just ain't got the energy. You can't smart everything. You can't outthink everything. Some stuff is just, you gotta be powerful. It's just some stuff that you gotta have stamina for. You just too slow. It just take you too long. You wake up, take you 3 weeks to do what it can take 24 hours to do. It don't make you a bad person, but you're going to forever be average because to be great, you got to keep up. I'm obsessed with improvement. Every day I'm getting better. This is the only opportunity I got. Every single day I got to lose myself in this moment.
As we begin to focus on developing ourselves, as we begin to elevate ourselves and not to follow the crowd, activating the thinker in us and disciplining and putting on hold the emotional part of ourselves. It's not easy, but through practice and practice and practice, practice makes improvement. You can always better your best. You can always go beyond anything that you have ever done. You never hit a state of perfection. You're always bigger than what you do. And so all you're looking for are new breakthroughs through practice and practice and practice. You'll get better and better and better.
The more you do, the more you realize you can do. And the better you are, the better you
that you can become.
You gotta stop waiting for your circumstance to change, and you gotta change the circumstance. You gotta stop saying that something's gonna happen, that something's gonna change, that something miraculously is gonna take place in my life that's gonna put me where I wanna be is not gonna happen. But every day you wake up, every day you get up, you got an opportunity. Every day you wake up, your fortune teller is you. At the end of that lottery ticket, it's you. Yep, you can be a millionaire. I don't know what you wanna be or what you wanna do, but I'm telling you, you can do it. But you gotta understand that the person that's gonna help you is the person that's the end of your arms, your hand. It's you. You have what it takes mentally. You have what it takes physically. You got the heart. You got everything it takes to make it happen. People say it seems like you're stronger now. You're more committed now. It seems like your drive is higher now. We're happy. I'm wired differently. Every opportunity is the last opportunity. Every opportunity I have to reprove myself again. Because the day you become convinced is the day you die. You have to make a decision that nobody in your position will outwork you. A part of being a beast just ain't eating a gazelle. A part of being a beast is to hunt. Because real lions like to hunt. They love the process just as much as they love the prize. And some of y'all just want to score. You don't like the process. It is the process of the grind that shapes you and forms you. It's not the game. You think grind is what happens when the lights come on, when the sun comes out. That's not grind. The real grind is in the dark when nobody sees you, when nobody knows what you're doing, when you put in those extra reps. It's the process that makes you sweet. There are those of you with phones. Every new phone that comes out, you get it. Every piece of software, you get it. You are upgrading your technology and you've not upgraded yourself. You don't think any different. You don't speak any different. You're the exact same person you were in 2010. I challenge you. Be obsessed with improvement and go from a gazelle to a lion. Why? Because if you don't kill it, then your family won't.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, let's meditate.
Old stories I've been told. I walk through the valley shadow. Awareness is my virtue, and I'm grateful for the search to dive deep within my own mind and to trust the intuition of the lives I've lived before this are essential form of gnosis. It's a simple form of freedom. It's as smooth as inhalation. Oh, the exhale is releasing all the tension I've been feeling on the surface and beneath me. I'm connecting to my spirit, and I'm here now right before you. I am present in this moment, and my life's work is to honor the great beauty all around you.
And that was a little bit of meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the Daily Stoic.
The vulnerability of dependence. Show me someone who isn't a slave. One is a slave to lust, another to greed, another to power, and all are slaves to fear. I could name a former consul who is a slave to a little old woman, a millionaire who is the slave of the cleaning woman. No servitude is more abject than the self-imposed. Seneca, Moral Letters, 47.17.
And that was the Daily Stoic. And now, His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron.
You're not just dumbly here or a result of a cosmic accident. No, you've been willed into existence by God. Why did he create you? Because he's got a mission for you. Hey, it might not be what the world thinks is important. Who cares? What's your mission from God? Might be the quietest thing. It's little in the eyes of the world, but great in the eyes of God. Now, here's the point. Once you understand what that is, move, act. Don't procrastinate. Don't fall asleep. Go in haste. Don't waste time. Life is short, and the mission is clear. Be about the work.
And that was His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron. And now, the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, "It is time to clarify in the public mind the pernicious confusion which was created by Marxism and which most people have unthinkingly accepted. The notion that economic controls are the proper function of a government, that government is a tool of economic class interests, and that the issue is only which particular class or pressure group shall be served by the government. The idea or possibility of an uncontrolled economy has been entirely forgotten and is now being deliberately ignored, unquote. And that's Ayn Rand from the chapter Notes on the History of American Free Enterprise from the book Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, a little bit of Jordan Peterson for gaslighting / self-censorship.
Whenever I was talking to even relatively moderate people on the left, I had to watch what I was saying all the time.
Yeah.
And it's good to pay attention to what you say and to be careful, but I get damn sick, damn quick of walking on eggshells when I've got something to say, especially among hypothetical peers that are hypothetically working to solve a problem. It's like, I just want to say what I think. And if you find that, if that's going to disrupt our personal relationship, it's like, maybe I don't want to be around you because it's just too damn annoying.
And that was gaslighting. Back in a minute. Thank you, Maria, then Stu.
Well, I'm focused on the U.S.-China trade talks. I know that Secretary Besson has to come back to the United States. But I will say this. Remember, Xi Jinping and Donald Trump just got on the phone for the first time in Trump's second term last week. So the speed of the planning and the talks, I think, is very telling.
For sure. All right, guys, great show. Thank you so much. We'll see everybody again tomorrow. Ryan Payne, Brianna Lyman, Cheryl Casoni. Varney and Company picks it up. Stu, take it away.
Good morning, Maria. Good morning, everyone. 700 Marines ready to go into Los Angeles. A suspect identified. Attorney General Pam Bondi says Elpidia Arena threw rocks at law enforcement. She says they're coming after anyone assaulting or spitting on police. The Democrats in denial. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was asked if he supported the deportation of murderers and rapists. He would not answer directly. Mayor Karen Bass says there are rapid response teams ready to go into action against ICE in Los Angeles. President Trump says he's going to enforce law and order. Governor Newsom says he's suing. There is, however, one Democrat who is not happy with his party, and that is Senator John Fetterman. He says the LA riot is anarchy and true chaos. To the markets, not much action. We're all in the green, but not much price change. Dow up 9, S&P up 9, NASDAQ up 37. You better take a look at Apple. This is the morning after its Worldwide Developers Conference. Some disappointment about Apple's progress with AI. The stock barely budging, $201 a share right there. Bitcoin, the quote now is 109.7. The yield on the 10-year Treasury, that is at 4.45%. As for the 2-year, we're still below the 4% mark, but no, we're not. We're right at 4% even. That's the 2-year. On the show today, day 2 of the China trade talks. The president calls it a good meeting so far. They conferred for the whole day Monday. They'll do the same today. Any headline could move the market. We'll take a closer look at the Democrats' response to the LA riots. My opinion, they're committing political suicide if they oppose the deportation of criminal, illegal migrants. And the big military parade coming up this Saturday. 6,000 troops, 50 helicopters, jets doing flyovers. The media and the Democrats are not happy. They're not keen on celebrating the president's 79th birthday. Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, Varney and Company is about to begin.
And that was Maria and Stu. Back in a minute. Oh, non-profit news now. Now back in a minute. Thank you. And now from a book that's called Good Inside. What's the opposite of understanding? For this argument's sake, it's convincing. Convincing is the attempt to prove a singular reality, to prove that only one thing is true. Convincing is an attempt to be right, and as a result make the other person wrong. It rests on the assumption that there's only one correct viewpoint. And then my question is this supposed to be convincing? Further, Convincing has one goal in mind, being right. And here's the unfortunate consequence of being right. The other person feels unseen and unheard, at which point most people become infuriated and combative because it feels as if the other person does not accept your realness or worth. Feeling unseen and unheard makes connection impossible. Understanding two things are true and convincing one thing is true are diametrically opposed ways of approaching other people, so a powerful first step in any interaction is to notice which mode you're in. When you're in one thing is true mode, you're judgmental of and reactive to someone else's experience because it feels like an assault on your own truth. As a result, you will seek to prove your own point of view, which in turn makes the other person defensive because they need to uphold the realness of their experience. In one thing is true mode, exchanges escalate quickly. Each person thinks they're arguing about the content of the conversation when in fact they're trying to defend that they are a real, worthy person with a real, truthful experience. And again, is this convincing? Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the statistics, weekly statistics from Spreaker for the week of June the 1st through June the 7th. Downloads are down. Down in the United States, down slightly in Australia, up in India, and even in Canada. And those are the statistics from Spreaker for the week of June the 1st through June the 7th. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, what does the phrase, if you're explaining, you're losing, mean? This was said by Ronald Reagan, speaking of political campaigns. From the perspective of your audience, if you have to explain yourself, you come off looking desperate to convince. As a consequence, you lose the high ground. From a more philosophical perspective, if you have a clear conscience and strong conviction towards the positions you take, your values, truth, and direction, you don't need the opinions or consent of others. As a consequence, you don't need to explain yourself. However, if you yourself are not convinced of the validity and truth of your position, or you can't fully justify your choices, then you continue to expel words in an attempt to create the illusion of certainty. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, this is a clip from YouTube from Brandon Lehman's channel. It's called CNN Humiliates the Mayor of Los Angeles.
So we all know California has a concerning habit of producing some of the most dim-witted, subpar politicians at an egregiously high frequency. But today, the mayor of LA might have just taken the top spot after she went on CNN to downplay the riots that have been going on for 4 days, making some of the most bizarre statements I think the reporters have ever heard, because they were utterly in disbelief, like saying that federal law doesn't apply in Los Angeles. All the clips in this video are from one singular interview with the mayor of LA on CNN. And by the end of this, you will understand how these riots happened, how they're allowed to happen, and why they're going to continue unless Donald Trump does something. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. But let's start with the mayor of LA saying how these riots wouldn't have happened if the Trump administration would just let them break the law.
Well, I just have to say that if you dial back time and go to Friday, if immigration raids had not happened here, we would not have the disorder that went on last night. I will tell you that it is peaceful now, but we do not know where and when the next raids will be. That is the concern, because people in the city have a rapid response network. If they see ICE, they go out and they protest. And so it's just a recipe for pandemonium that is completely unnecessary. Nothing was happening here. Los Angeles was peaceful before Friday.
This is why California politicians are so scary on a national level, because they've legitimately internalized that following the law is optional. These riots wouldn't have happened if these raids wouldn't have happened. Well, these raids wouldn't have happened if LA County wasn't harboring 1 million illegal immigrants. They believe illegal immigrants are entitled to live in California, and the federal government has absolutely no say in the matter. These are the people who will pass laws that allow you to avoid arrest if you shoplift under $1,000 of merchandise, because their perverted, radical, racist philosophy is that any kind of criminality is a result of poverty. And because black people and brown people are the poorest demographic, any enforcement of rules and laws is therefore racist. But here she continues to express her extreme frustration and confusion as to why the federal government is enforcing the law.
Governor Newsom has said that President Trump is, quote, putting fuel on the fire. And you've called the deployment of National Guard troops to your city a chaotic escalation. Why is this an escalation?
Well, again, it's an escalation that didn't have to happen. Why were there raids? You know, we had been told that he was going to go after violent criminals. It wasn't a drug den. It was a Home Depot. It was places where people are working. So what was the point of doing this? And then knowing that in a city like Los Angeles, and we had talked about this for a long time, that has a very sophisticated long-term immigrant rights organizations and institutions, that if these random raids were going to happen, then there was going to be the danger of a backlash.
So basically, she believes it's justified and to be expected that if federal law is upheld in Los Angeles, there will be violent riots to protest it. So when you have the mayor and the governor publicly applauding these riots and declaring that LAPD will not assist in stopping the obstruction of these protesters, what choice does Donald Trump have other than to call in the National Guard? You guys are allowing riots to break out in the street because your hope is that enough pressure will be put on ICE agents that they'll give up enforcing the law, and your lawlessness can just carry on. We don't care that you've decided illegal immigration isn't a problem and isn't worth being taken care of. Being an illegal immigrant in the United States is a federal crime. It's not a state crime. California can't just unilaterally decide that illegal immigration into America is fine. And these weird sanctuary city laws that don't allow law enforcement to cooperate with federal agents on immigration is just weird and unconstitutional. And even then, not assisting ICE agents with, say, immigrations is a lot different than letting a riot break out in the street, allowing people to get violent with federal agents and leaving them to defend themselves, hoping that they'll back off. Now, here she is saying one of the dumbest things on this interview.
Given the point where it has escalated to, do you think the National Guard is needed now?
No, I don't think the National Guard is needed now. Things in LA are calm. I will tell you that I'm saddened by the extent of the vandalism in the form of graffiti all through the downtown area. But it is important for people to know that even in downtown, this is isolated to a few streets.
It's so dumb to say it's only isolated to a few streets. Yeah, the few streets are all surrounding the federal building that the rioters are attacking, throwing Molotovs, throwing commercial-grade fireworks, bricks, bottles, rocks. They are trying to surround and take over a federal building, and you won't send your local police department to try to stop it, and you don't think the National Guard is needed? It shows that these rioters are professional agitators. The point of sending in the National Guard is so that everybody realizes it's time to go home. This is over. But Karen Bass's logic is, if they send the National Guard, that'll just make the rioters even more violent, basically trying to compel anarchy by force. It's funny because earlier she said no National Guard is needed because right now there aren't any riots. But as I've been recording this, a riot has broken out for the fourth straight night, and it's expected to get more violent as the sun goes down. And now Trump has deployed 700 Marines to bolster the presence down there because everybody is tired of this reckless lawlessness that California is engaging in. Now, this is where they embarrass her so bad, contradicting her "everything is all fine in LA" statement by playing a clip of the LA police chief saying there actually is widespread violence and they are overwhelmed.
All right, I want to play some sound from Police Chief Jim McDonnell. Let's listen.
This violence that I've seen is disgusting. It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent. Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you. And we have adapted our tactics to be able to have a chance to be able to take these people into custody and to be able to hold them accountable. We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity.
Shocking. It's the same exact thing that happened when LA was burning to the ground. The mayor was just blatantly, publicly lying, telling everybody that what they were seeing with their own eyes wasn't real. And then the actual people on the ground contradict her publicly because they understand that the situation is bad and they're the ones who have to deal with it. They can't just get away with virtue signaling like the mayor. They actually need some help because they understand that if they don't, things can get even worse. But that's California politicians for you. Really, the entire Democrat Party was infected by that culture of dishonesty. We see protesters shooting fireworks at law enforcement, throwing Molotov cocktails, lighting cars on fire, and they have the gall to get on live TV and say these are peaceful protests. Now, let's listen to her respond to what the police chief said, and these CNN reporters really grill her here. Let's listen to her respond to what the police chief said, and these CNN reporters really grill her here.
Back to what we just heard from the LAPD chief. You said that you're totally in sync with the police chief. He is saying that he's overwhelmed, that his forces are overwhelmed. What more do you need to hear from him to bring in more resources, to bring him the support that he is saying he needs?
Well, what I was saying is that the support he has called on, and he has received that support from the sheriff's department and from other police departments. And so I do not believe that he was describing a situation where we cannot bring it under control here. I think you should talk to him a little bit further. But what we are seeing, for example, there's nothing happening on our streets now. On Saturday, when this decision was being contemplated, there was nothing happening on our streets. As I mentioned, that evening, there was a protest that got out of hand. It was a protest of 100 people. None of that warrants federal intervention, and that's my point.
Right, but you also acknowledge that you don't know if there's going to be other immigration raids in the city.
Right.
So, I mean, that raises the question, what are you doing to prepare for that potential scenario? There could be more violence ahead.
Prepare? A California politician, you expect them to prepare? That would require a little bit of competence, at least. I mean, lack of preparation is what led to Los Angeles burning down. California politicians don't think. They don't plan. They just virtue signal and implement the most radically woke policies you could ever think of. They don't care if these policies ruin Los Angeles. They just want to talk about how good and kind they are. It's so intentional that they always talk about illegal immigrants as just immigrants. LA is a pro-immigrant city. These are hard-working immigrants. These are people who broke into our country illegally, completely disregarded our policies and our procedures, giving a giant middle finger to one of our most important cultural values, rule of law, undercutting American wages, draining federal and state welfare systems designed to help Americans in need, and then riot in the streets, waving the flag of the country that was supposedly so bad you had to run for your life from. They don't want to be American. They like the comforts of living in America, especially when deranged Democrats are creating policies that prioritize these illegal immigrants at the expense of their normal citizens, but they want to keep their language. They want to keep all their customs, all their values. Like every time I go to McDonald's, the person handing me my food doesn't speak any English. Is it too much to ask for that when I go to a national food chain in the United States, I should expect them to be able to speak English? It's not like I'm going to some mom and pop Mexican restaurant. It's because Democrats hate Western culture. They hate America. They think we're evil imperialists. They subscribe that we stole this land from Mexico and they have a right to be here. They subscribe to the philosophy that all of the world's problems are because of America. Therefore, all the people who live in these poor countries, who are poor because of America, have a right to come here and drain our resources. Again, it's the racist worldview that they hold, that any person who is white or any culture that is white is bad, and all the black and brown ones are good, and they'd otherwise be rich and prosperous nations if it wasn't for America. So they have a right to illegally break into our country and live the life that they deserve. It's pure nonsense. But the last thing I'm going to show you is them hitting Mayor Karen Bass with the ultimate smackdown, showing her a poll that shows Americans are in favor of deporting illegal immigrants, and asking her if she's the one who's out of touch.
I want to share the CBS poll. It shows 54% of Americans approve of the Trump administration's program to deport illegal immigrants. A minority, 46%, disapprove. Are Democrats out of touch on this issue?
Well, I think if you did the polling in Los Angeles, I'm not sure it would be that way, considering we are a city of immigrants. And then people might approve that policy, but do people really approve the federal government coming in and seizing power from a state and from a city? So I drilled down a little further on that poll because I do not believe that Americans support the federal intervention in a city takeover or a state takeover.
See, the Democrats are so out of touch because they can't for a second imagine that people think differently than them. No, not everyone thinks illegal immigration is fine and dandy. If they did, Donald Trump wouldn't have won. No, we don't care about the sob stories of hardship. Basically, 70% of the world has a sob story. And no, we're not upset at the methods in which Donald Trump is using to achieve this goal. Joe Biden treasonously let in 20 million illegal immigrants in a 4-year period, completely overwhelming the country. But we're supposed to conduct deportations in a way that appeases Democrats. They'll say, yeah, we support deporting the violent gang members and criminals, but these people overwhelmingly live in sanctuary cities because they know the law enforcement doesn't cooperate with ICE. So they're essentially allowing illegal, violent foreign nationals to walk the streets of America, and they don't believe the federal government is entitled to stopping that. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below.
There we go. So he's handled this excellently, better than any other commentator I've heard other than me. And the only thing that he does not know about is determinism, that all of this is deterministic. That notice she says, well, there's networks. Well, what network? She doesn't say. Everything is very bland. She talks about coming out of Washington, D.C. She won't mention President Trump's name. And at first that seems odd because usually the left loves to say everything is Trump, 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 Trump. But she says it's coming out of Washington, D.C. Everything the way she phrases everything makes it sound as though, and she loves to use the word chaos and chaotic, to make everybody think that the whole world is chaotic and that you can't understand anything, you can't know anything with certainty, you never know what's going to pop up. That's another phrase they keep using. Pop up, chaos. and that one thing leads to another. That's what she's constantly referring to. Well, if this hadn't happened, then such and such wouldn't have automatically and naturally followed from it. Now, one of the things that we know about is that, and I have a clip of this, is that they are advertising at some organization, I don't know who it is advertising on Craigslist and is actually offering $1,000 to $3,000, I think is per day, for protesters. And there's a section on Craigslist where you can go and look for, I think it's a section called social activism or something. But you can go and be a paid protester. It used to be, the last time I looked at it, they were paying around $10 an hour. So if they're really paying $1,000 to $3,000, first of all, it shows you how desperate they are to get protesters. And second of all, it shows you why it is that people are willing to go out in the street. And again, it didn't follow automatically. This isn't grassroots. It's what is known as astroturf. It's false. It's artificial. It's manufactured. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, psychopolitics.
11. Big data. Columbus and his egg. Bentham likened his panopticon to Columbus and his egg. By his account, the invention should be applied to all disciplinary milieus of incarceration because it promotes the exceptionally efficient surveillance of inmates. The panopticon represents a watershed in the social order. Bentham asks, what would you say if by the gradual adoption and diversified application of this single principle, you should see a new scene of things spread itself over the face of civilized society? Will big data also prove to be Columbus's egg for the contemporary society of digital control? A system even more effective than Bentham's panopticon? Will it actually manage not just to watch over human behavior, but also to subject it to psychopolitical steering? Is another wholly unintuited drama poised to redraw the face of civilized society itself? If nothing else, big data has given rise to a highly efficient form of control. Axiom, an American big data company, promises clients a 360-degree customer view. Indeed, the digital panopticon has made possible a wraparound view of those who dwell within it. Bentham's panopticon was confined to a perspectival optical system. This meant that blind spots were unavoidable. Here, prisoners could indulge in secret wishes and thoughts without being observed. Digital surveillance proves so efficient because it is a-perspectival. It does not suffer from the perspectival limitations characterizing analog optical systems. Digital optics enables surveillance from any and every angle. It eliminates all blind spots. In contrast to analog and perspectival optics, it can peer into the human soul itself. Dataism. In the pages of the New York Times, David Brooks has announced a data revolution. His words are as prophetic as Chris Anderson's famous article, The End of Theory. Dataism is the name of the new faith. If you ask me to describe the rising philosophy of the day, I'd say it is dataism. We now have the ability to gather huge amounts of data. This ability seems to carry with it certain cultural assumptions that everything that can be measured should be measured, that data is a transparent and reliable lens that allows us to filter out emotionalism and ideology, that data will help us do remarkable things, like foretell the future. The data revolution is giving us wonderful ways to understand the present and the past. dataism has taken the stage with the fervor of a second enlightenment. During the first enlightenment, statistics was thought to possess the capacity to liberate human knowledge from the clutches of mythology. Accordingly, euphoric celebration occurred. In light of such developments, Voltaire even voiced the wish for a new historiography, freed from past superstition. Statistics, as he put it, offers an object of curiosity for anyone who would like to read history as a citizen and as a philosopher. Revised by statistics, history would become truly philosophical. As Rüdiger Kamper writes, the numbers of statistics provide the basis from which Voltaire can articulate his methodological mistrust of all histories that exist only as narratives. The stories of ancient history accordingly offer an example that borders on mythology for him. Statistics and enlightenment are one and the same for Voltaire. Statistics means setting objective knowledge founded on and driven by numbers in opposition to mythological narration. Now, transparency is the buzzword of the Second Enlightenment. Data are supposed to be a pellucid medium. As Brooks describes them, data afford a transparent and reliable lens. The imperative of the Second Enlightenment declares everything must become data and information. The soul of the Second Enlightenment is data totalitarianism, or data fetishism. Although it announces that it is taking leave of all ideology, dataism itself is an ideology. It is leading to digital totalitarianism. Therefore, a third enlightenment is called for, in order to shine a light on how digital enlightenment has transformed into a new kind of servitude. Big data is supposed to be freeing knowledge from subjective arbitrariness. By this logic, intuition does not represent a higher form of knowing. Instead, it represents something merely subjective, a stopgap compensating for the shortage of objective data. In complex situations, the argument goes, intuition is blind. The mistrust even extends to theory, which is suspected of being an ideology. If enough data are available, it should prove superfluous as well. The Second Enlightenment is the age of purely data-driven knowledge. Anderson's visionary rhetoric goes, out with every theory of human behavior, from linguistics to sociology. Forget taxonomy, ontology, and psychology. Who knows why people do what they do? The point is, they do it, and we can track and measure it with unprecedented fidelity. With enough data, the numbers speak for themselves. The medium of the First Enlightenment was reason. However, imagination, corporeality, and desire were repressed in its name. By a fatal dialectic, the First Enlightenment switched over into barbarism. Now, in the Second Enlightenment, which appeals to information, data, and transparency, the same dialectic threatens to do the same. The Second Enlightenment is summoning forth a new kind of violence. The dialectic of enlightenment holds that the process of illumination that set out to destroy mythology became entangled with every stride it made in a mythology of its own. False clarity is only another name for myth. Adorno would say that the transparency of today is another name for myth too, that dataism likewise heralds false clarity. The dialectic of old is also making the Second Enlightenment, which seeks to counter ideology, into an ideology in its own right. More still, it is leading to the barbarism of data. Dataism, it turns out, is amounting to digital Dadaism. Dadaism also takes leave of meaningful contexts of every kind. It empties language itself of sense. The acts of life have no beginning or end. Everything happens in a completely idiotic way, That is why everything is alike. Simplicity is called dada. Dataism is nihilism. It gives up on any and all meaning. Data and numbers are not narrative. They are additive. Meaning, on the other hand, is based on narration. Data simply fills up the senseless void. Now, numbers and data are not just being absolutized. They are becoming sexualized and fetishized. This amounts to nothing other than libidinal energy flowing into today's quantified self. On the whole, dataism is displaying libidinous, indeed pornographic traits. Dataists mate with their data. In the meanwhile, there is even talk of data sexuals. They are relentlessly digital and consider data sexy. The digitus is starting to play the part of the phallus. Quantified self. Belief that life admits measurement and quantification governs the digital age as a whole. Quantified self honors this faith too. The body is outfitted with sensors that automatically register data. Measurements involve temperature, blood sugar levels, calorie intake and use, movement profiles, and fat content. The heart rate is taken in a state of meditation. Performance and efficiency still count when relaxing. Moods, dispositions, and routine activities are all inventoried as well. Such self-measurement and self-monitoring is supposed to enhance mental performance. Yet the mounting pile of data this yields does nothing to answer the simple question, who am I? Quantified self represents a Dadaist technology too. It empties the self of any and all meaning. The self gets broken down into data until no sense remains. The motto of quantified self is self-knowledge through numbers. But no insight into the self can result from data and numbers alone, no matter how exhaustive they are. Numbers do not recount anything about the self. Counting is not recounting. A sense of self derives from giving an account. It is not counting, but recounting that leads to self-discovery or self-knowledge. In antiquity, the care of the self was also tied to practices of self-observation. Publicatio sui, Tertullian, represented a significant component of paying due attention in this manner. Writing was also important in the culture of taking care of oneself. One of the main features of taking care involved taking notes on oneself to be reread, writing treatises and letters to friends to help them, and keeping notebooks in order to reactivate for oneself the truths one needed. Publicatio sui meant committing to the search for truth. Records of one's life served an ethics of the self. In contrast, dataism's self-tracking is devoid of all ethics and truth. It amounts simply to a technology for self-monitoring. When the data collected is published and exchanged, self-tracking comes to resemble self-surveillance more and more. The subject of today's world is an entrepreneur of the self practicing self-exploitation, and by the same token, self-surveillance. The auto-exploiting subject carries around its own labor camp. Here it is perpetrator and victim at one and the same time. As a self-illuminating, self-surveilling subject, it bears its own internal panopticon within. Here, there is no difference between guard and inmate. The digitalized, networked subject is a panopticon of itself. This ensures that each and every person has now taken on the task of conducting perpetual auto-surveillance. Life logged in full. Today, the clicks we make and the search words we type are stored. Every step is watched and recorded. A complete picture of our lives exists on the internet. Our digital habitus provides an extremely precise likeness of our persons, of our very souls. Perhaps it is even fuller and more accurate than the images we otherwise make of ourselves. The number of web addresses now available is practically unlimited. As such, any item of use can be given its own internet address. Objects themselves are starting to transmit information. They report on our lives, activities, and habits. The expansion of Web 2.0, the Internet of Persons, to Web 3.0, the Internet of Things, is bringing digital control society to completion. Web 3.0 has made it possible to log life in every aspect. Now, the very things we use every day are also surveilling us. We are caught, so to speak, in the total memory of the digital. Bentham's panopticon still lacked an efficient recording system. It had only a punishment log for penalties enacted and the reasons they occurred. Prisoners' actual lives were not taken down. Big Brother had no way of knowing what inmates really thought or desired. In contrast to Big Brother, who could be quite forgetful, Big Data never forgets anything at all. For this reason alone, the digital panopticon is much more efficient than Bentham's. Indeed, in US elections, big data and data mining have proven to be Columbus's egg. Candidates obtain a 360-degree view of voters. Enormous masses of data are gathered from various sources, bought, in fact, and connected to each other in such a way that highly precise voter profiles result. In the process, clients also gain insight into voters' private lives and their very psyche. Through micro-targeting, personalized messages are devised to address and influence voters. As the practical microphysics of power, micro-targeting is data-driven psychopolitics. Likewise, intelligent algorithms make it possible to predict voting behavior and optimize candidates' appeal. Individually calibrated messages to voters are hardly any different than personalized advertisements. More and more, voting and buying, the state and the market, citizens and consumers are coming to resemble each other. Micro-targeting is becoming the standard practice of psychopolitics. The census, which represents a biopolitical practice of disciplinary society, provides material that may be used demographically, but not psychologically. Biopolitics is incapable of enabling subtle interventions in the psyche. In contrast, digital psychopolitics manages to intervene in psychic processes in a prospective fashion. Quite possibly, it is even faster than free will. As such, it could overtake it. If so, this would herald the end of freedom. The digital unconscious. It is possible that big data can even read desires we do not know we harbor. After all, under certain circumstances, we develop inclinations that elude consciousness. Often, we do not even know why we suddenly experience a certain need. For instance, at a given stage of pregnancy, a woman may crave a particular product. Yet this impulse marks a correlation of which she remains unaware. She buys the item, but she doesn't know why. That's how it is. Conceivably, this "that's how it is," es ist so, exists in psychic proximity to the Freudian id, es, which escapes the ego and consciousness. In this light, big data is making the id into an ego to be exploited psychopolitically. If big data has access to the realm of our unconscious actions and inclinations, it is possible to construct a psychopolitics that would reach deep into our psyche to exploit it. According to Walter Benjamin, the movie camera affords access to the optical unconscious. With the close-up, space expands. With slow motion, movement is extended. Clearly, it is another nature which speaks to the camera as compared to the eye. Other, above all, in the sense that a space informed by human consciousness gives way to a space informed by the unconscious. We are familiar with the movement of picking up a cigarette lighter or a spoon, but know almost nothing of what really goes on between hand and metal, and still less how this varies with different moods. This is where the camera comes into play, with all its resources for swooping and rising, disrupting and isolating, stretching or compressing a sequence, enlarging or reducing an object. It is through the camera that we first discover the optical unconscious, just as we discover the instinctual unconscious through psychoanalysis. One may understand big data in analogy to a movie camera. As a digital magnifying glass, data mining would enlarge the picture of human actions. Behind the framework of consciousness, it would then disclose another scene, shot through with unconscious elements. Big data's microphysics, then, would make actomes visible. That is, micro-actions that elude detection by the waking mind. Thus, big data could also bring to light collective patterns of behavior, of which individuals are unaware. This would render the collective unconscious accessible. In analogy to the optical unconscious, one could call such a microphysical or micropsychical web of relations the digital unconscious. As such, digital psychopolitics would be in the position to take control of mass behavior on a level that escapes detection. Big business. Today, big data is not just taking the stage as Big Brother, it is also taking the form of big business. First and foremost, big data is a vast commercial enterprise. Here, personal data are unceasingly monetized and commercialized. Now, people are treated and traded as packages of data for economic use. That is, human beings have become a commodity. Big Brother and big business have formed an alliance. The surveillance state and the market are merging.
And that was, it was chapter 11 of Psychopolitics, Neoliberalism and New Technologies of Power by Byung-Chul Han. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative of the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there and reminding you that determinism is a choice.